Clothing, a thin layer of fabric between our most vulnerable selves and the world. A simple concept, yet one so deeply entangled in human psychology, power, and shame that it dictates entire civilizations and is molding our world as we speak. What an odd thing, this obsessive compulsion to cover our bodies with an opaque cloth of a seasonal color and a subjective style. To hide our skin, to mark status, to conform, to obey.
Eerie Aquarium has warned you. Subliminal haunting is our game.
An oppressive system like this could only lead to social disorders that have nourished the industrialized objectification of the human body for centuries. But who's pushing for this? And why? The beginnings. It didn't start as modesty. The first garments weren't sewn from guilt or virtue, but from necessity, protection against the cold, the elements, the sharp teeth of predators. But as humanity built its lies, myths and cities, as power became more than just survival, clothing transformed. It became something else entirely. A tool, a statement, a weapon. And at some point, a strange idea was introduced. The body should be hidden, not for survival, but for order. Shame was woven into fabric like an invisible thread, stitching together a doctrine that told us nudity was wrong. And the only acceptable way to cover one's shame is through conventions, doctrines, and body identification. Because an exposed body is free, uncontrolled, undecipherable, and hence unpredictable. And those in control, governments, religions, social hierarchies, and industries, have always feared unpredictability and have always strived through indoctrination. The paradox of exposure and shame. Think about this. The human body in its natural form, God's creation to some, and a superior evolutionary state for others, is forbidden. A crime in some places, an offense in others. A naked body, regardless of its actions, is labeled obscene, vulgar, inappropriate. Not because of what it does, but because of what it is. The paradox is clear. The body must be covered, but at the same time, exposure is currency. The same societies that punish nudity also sell it. The same platforms that censor bare skin flood us with hypersexualized advertising and invest in the porn industry themselves. A bare chest is vulgar unless it sells perfume. A body is inappropriate unless it's modeling a product or starring in a mega movie. And this is where the industries of pleasure thrive. Pornography, strip clubs, OnlyFans, high fashion editorials, cinema, music videos, magazine covers, you name it. The commodification of flesh is widespread, and it operates in direct contradiction to the moral policing of its own investors. How come, some might ask? Well, the line between decency and indecency, art and obscenity, appropriateness and taboo, is not real. It is a business model, and it is rigged. To them, the body is a product, and their strategy is to limit its access, build excessive desires, control the distribution, and monetize in all packaging and marketing spectrums. Let me repeat this because it's the core dynamic in the objectification of the human body. Limit access, build excessive desires, control the distribution, and monetize in all packaging and marketing spectrums. The patriarchal tailors of modesty and desire. Clothing has always been dictated by men, not the ones who wear it, but the ones who decide how it should be worn. Religious leaders, politicians, corrupt designers, corporate executives, industry moguls, centuries of powerful men determining what everyone else should wear, including women, what is appropriate, what is dignified, what is respectable. And when they weren't deciding, they were consuming. It's a world where women are judged for revealing too much, yet disadvantaged for revealing too little. They are expected to conform to beauty standards designed by male eyes, while also bearing the guilt of attraction, the accusation of temptation, and the burden of proof of strict conformity. And if any person, regardless of social or political orientation, dares to have different views about how to dress, shame, targeting, and cancellation kick in. But it's not just about women. Men, too, have been forced into conformity and into formal obedience, and some say to a larger extent than women. It's a different kind of control, one that presents itself as power, but is really just another leash, a suit, a tie, a rigid, colorless shell, the only acceptable form of authority, of professionalism, of masculinity. Anything outside this mold is met with judgment. Too flamboyant, too weak, too unserious, or too different. In cultures across the world, men's clothing is codified, restrictive, unforgiving. A man in a dress, it's either a strict requirement in some places or an offense in others. A man in something that dares suggest softness, delicacy, a threat unless you're part of the clique, a servant designer, or a glorified clown, then it's okay. Colors? Of course not. Not if you're a real man. Men may not be objectified the way women are, but they are restricted in a way women aren't. Where women are forced into spectacle and objectification, men are forced into uniformity and order. Both are prisons, different cells, same walls, and same jailers. And for the LGBTQ communities, newfound freedoms in some countries have quickly been hijacked by the same powers to capitalize on a new emerging market they can now control for profit. The designers have already codified the styles. What a shame to see a righteous cause hijacked in this manner. Clothing as a living nightmare. This correlation between clothing and power is not even subtle. Besides the obvious military and professional uniform hierarchies, look through history and you will see fashion used as a literal method of restriction. Corsets crushing rib cages, high collars forcing posture, bound feet warping flesh to fit a dictated beauty. Clothing has been designed not just to cover and to represent, but to suppress, to dictate how society should operate and even feel. To remind us that hierarchy is the law. The more control over a body, the less it can express itself. And here we are, conforming. A dress so rigid it forces the shape of the hourglass. A veil so sheer it invites imagination. The chains of modesty and conformity can be contradicting, but they both often draw more attention than the skin itself. And it's by design. It's the teaser for the product, the trailer for the movie, if you will. A corset becomes erotic, not despite its discomfort, but because of it. A burqa becomes a twisted promise for conquering virginity and ownership. What appears to be a default or a fashionable style is in fact an imprisonment in a lucrative marketing game. And then, somewhere along the way, all of the above is rebranded as a fetish, available for extra dollars for those who fancy. But the greatest trick of all, convincing half the population that it's an intuitive, organic, culturally inspired design progression. grand illusion of fashion trends. Fashion trends are not spontaneous. They do not emerge from the streets, nor do they organically evolve from the needs of the people. They are dictated meticulously, deliberately, and with purpose. Every season, the industry unveils the new look, the it color, the must-have silhouette. But who decides? A select few. Executives, designers, marketing teams, meeting behind closed doors, setting the stage for what billions will wear. A calculated mix of commodification and conditioning. But notice the pattern. The clothes get tighter, the skirts get shorter, the necklines get lower. Year by year, the fabric shrinks. The female body is not just revealed, it is offered, objectified under the guise of self-expression, sexualized in the name of empowerment. But for the men, order is maintained, and high fashion is more subtle. And yet, for those who seek power, the elites, the moguls, the rulers, fashion follows a different set of rules. For the aspiring professionals, the politicians, the CEOs, the message is clear. Cover up, structure, suit, uniform. The tighter the hierarchy, the stricter the dress code. The more influence one seeks, the less skin is permitted. Unless skin is what you're selling, but it will have to be in a regulated industry, show business, and such. Those who rule must be impenetrable, wrapped in stiff fabric and muted colors. We are being sorted into those who set the rules and those who obey. The inevitable future of fashion. Besides the current trends, a new menace is on the way. As technology evolves, clothing is merging with something even stranger: erasure. Platforms blur skin automatically. AI-generated figures are dressed by default. Nudity isn't just censored, it's deleted. And if clothing has always been a tool of control, then what happens when artificial intelligence and tracking technologies are introduced? What happens when it's equipped for surveillance? Is this too far-fetched? I think if it leads to more control and more power, then it's inevitable. The future of fashion is no longer fabric. It is data and algorithms. The garment itself will begin to track behavior. Smart fabrics will monitor heart rates. Security uniforms will scan for dangerous movement. Algorithmic fashion will be designed to tailor itself to what is appropriate based on real-time social cues. A piece of fabric already determines where you can go, what you can do, and whether you are deemed acceptable. It will just be enforced at the source. How far are we from garments that silence voices, that lock bodies into shapes and places dictated by external norms? The cage of fashion is certainly tightening with every decade. But the strangest thing of all, the most powerful oppressing garment ever created wasn't silk or leather or cotton or even technology. It was shame, a fabric of an age-old propaganda, suffocating enough to shape entire civilizations. It is stitched into history. It is sewn into laws. It is laced into the way we see ourselves and others. Shame indeed.
mercy me, oh mercy mine. Down on my knees, I got my arms stretched to the sky. Trouble to the left of me, sorrow to the right. Can you hear me, Lord, and can you lead me to the light? I lift my voice, I call your name, as I toil down in this valley of strife and pain. I've been over backwards, paid it all forwards, don't